Again, welcome and thank you for being here. You have entered into our virtual August Diabetes Cooking Club, and we have got our team here today to present to you cooking with berries, eating berries, and how you can use berries in your diet when you are also living with diabetes or even pre-diabetes. My name is Tina Guajardo. I will be your facilitator for today's Diabetes Cooking Club. We've got the wonderful Kim House, registered dietitian and diabetes educator, with us today to provide the diabetes education portion of today's program. And then we've got the great Isabel Hinton, health educator with Bronson Community Health, and she is going to be doing that delicious cooking that we are going to see on screen. So let's get started. Again, you are here for the All About Berries Diabetes Cooking Club. It is August 27th. We will run for about an hour for today's program. We do record all of our programs, and so our recording has already started. In a week or so, you will see this uploaded to the Bronson YouTube page, along with all of our previous diabetes cooking clubs. We have closed captioning enabled, so if you need that, please click the little CC button at the bottom of your screen. It may not always be 100% accurate, so if there's ever a point in time where the text says something and you're like, that doesn't really make any sense, please feel free to let us know and we would love to clarify that for you. At the bottom of your screen, you'll also see the controls to mute yourself or unmute yourself. And so while we are doing the class, we ask that you remain muted just to eliminate any distractions or background noises. However, we do love interaction too. And so there are going to be points in time in today's Diabetes Club where we're going to ask you questions, and you can use the chat feature. You'll see the chat button at the bottom of your screen, or please feel free to unmute yourself and share verbally with us. We'd love to hear your voice too. We'd also love to see your face. If you want to be on camera with us, at the bottom of your screen, you can also turn your camera on, but we also understand if you would like your privacy and prefer not to have your camera on too. So welcome again to All About Berries, our August Diabetes Cooking Club. So I just want to provide a general disclosure for you all. We do these cooking clubs and our education as a option for general health information, and that is what today's program is intended to be. Our programming should never be used as a substitute for your individualized medical care, and so anything that you hear in today's program, please use as a talking point to talk with your provider to ensure that what we are saying today works for you in your health history. So we're going to move on and get started. And I'm going to pass it over to Kim to talk to us about what our plan for today's time together is.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Kim House. I am a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes educator, and I am here located at Bronson South Haven, actually in the Wellness Center, but I come to you today to help a more understanding all about berries. And so in front of you, you see an agenda that we're going to be talking about actually what are berries and all of the berry options out there, the uses, the health benefits, comparing some nutrition profiles. Isabel will provide us a recipe and show us walk through us a recipe, pork loin and blackberry sauce. We will also discuss, choosing, washing, and storing blackberries. And then Isabel, again, will have this recipe walk through us about this blueberry sun salad. So I'm going to kick off our discussion today with what is your go-to berry? So go ahead and, as Tina said, you may go ahead and put that in the chat below. What is your go-to berry?
I feel like my go-to berry is strawberries.
Mine as well.
Yeah.
That season is way too short.
Yes, it totally is. What about you, Isabel? What's your go-to berry?
I also am a strawberry lover. I do like a good old raspberry though as well. Like a fresh picked raspberry.
Very good. I see some raspberries in the chat too. So, we have some lovers of blueberries and strawberries, mulberries. That was one I haven't thought of in a while. We used to have a mulberry tree in our backyard. Raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, raspberries. Oh, grapes and blueberries. Interesting. So, I think blackberries, blueberries, and strawberries seem to be some equal winners in our conversation today. The classic. Very good. Thank you guys all for participating. We love some participation in our chat questions. So,
Love it. Well, let's talk about what berries are. And with diabetes, berries are nutritious, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And we kind of are curious, like, what exactly are berries? So we know that they come from and develop from a flower that contains seeds. So this can very so expansive, and they can be either sweet or tart varieties. And there are so many, even hundreds of varieties worldwide of berries. So we're not coming to you today to name a hundred top 100 list, but we've got a list next up about, some berry options that are maybe more local, and some of them are in season. So as you can see, we've got some of our raspberries, our blackberries, blueberries, and some of your cranberries in the picture on the slide, but we can also include our strawberries that were kind of top in the chat question. Also, goji berries. I call them acai berries. I'm not sure what everybody else calls them, but there's also gooseberries. Someone else said mulberries. I mean, this list can grow. But today we are focusing specifically on blueberries and blackberries. So really, is there any other ones we're missing? Maybe just another chat question. List out other ones that you might have heard of that could be that we don't have on this list. Mulberries is one to add.
oh, yes, mulberries. We have an answer there in the chat. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I've seen that. She says it's a plant like holly. I've seen that word. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I won't try. And then I don't know, Kim, you might actually hit on this later. So I'm just going to say this out loud now. You can answer it now or later. But does fresh or dried berries matter? Is there a difference? So I'll let you either answer that now or later.
Yeah, I will soon address the nutrition profile. I'm going to be comparing fresh and frozen, but I can certainly talk soon about fresh, frozen, and dried. And so, even with diabetes, everything kind of fits in. And what we'd be looking for is probably a little bit smaller portion size of that dried berry, as it's concentrated compared to maybe the fresh or the frozen amount. But we'll touch on we'll look at those nutrition profiles pretty quickly here.
Very good.
Good question. All right, so some uses of our berries. Boy, I'm sure we have other uses, but what you see here is, a smoothie. I start my day with a smoothie. I don't know about you guys, but I start with strawberries and bananas. Classic. I try other smoothies. This is just always it. There's desserts, as you can see, like blueberries and raspberries. There's some cranberry sauce there. There's salads that you could just build and add berries to with all sorts of other delicious, colorful things. You can do jams, side dishes of berries. Boy, your yogurt could be topped with or mixed in with fresh fruit, like a berry. Our French toast, instead of, a sugary syrup, could be some chopped berries, sliced berries on top. What are some other uses of berries? If you could go ahead and place your suggestions in the chat, that would be wonderful because I'm sure it's numerous. What are other people saying?
We're getting lots of other ideas on different types of berries. And so, yes, how do you like to use your berries? And I'll kind of move that on to our next question, like what other uses and how do you prefer to
Yeah.
use berries? So
Yep.
go ahead and just add that into the chat. And so we had some other suggestions for berries. Lingonberries, Saskatoons, elderberries, barberries.
Wow.
I know. So lots of different berry options out there that we're not even touching on today. And so how do people prefer to use berries? Well, obviously there's the pies, right? The pies, blueberry pies, and some chia pudding
Mm-hmm.
on oatmeal. That's a classic, isn't it? In muffins or in cake. Jill likes to serve it with pork or fish as a sauce. She's on to something. We're going to talk about that. Can't wait to see that recipe later. And then Nikki's daughter makes a very yummy crustless blueberry pie. And then we also like to have berries with just some yogurt too. I think that's my favorite way as well. So good suggestions, good ideas. Love it.
Sure, sure. Sounds good. And we might be thinking, with diabetes, what is the health benefit of these berries? And, we're talking pies and sweets and things like that. But what we know is specifically the berries themselves is they are low sugar and the content of them is high fiber. So with diabetes, we know that adding fiber by way of a fresh product like a berry will help to control our blood sugars. It will keep it more maintained. The fiber will also fill us up, so it may prevent us from overeating at that meal, which may help manage our weight better. Berries themselves are fairly low calorie, as we'll see down the road with nutrition profile here. So like a cup of berries could be 50 calories versus a cup of something else could be, much more. And we'll just back it up once quick, Tina, before we had that on, is that they're really antioxidant rich. So if you didn't know, with antioxidants, we're talking about really preventing, the berries are providing us nutrients that prevent um, destruction or breaking down of materials in our body that could predispose us to things like cancer and other diseases and conditions. So berries, fresh, frozen, perhaps dried, could provide us those nutrients that could be very healthy to limit, prevent, delay diseases or conditions. But we're here with diabetes, and it could be part of a healthful meal, diabetes friendly, controlling our blood sugars with that meal, well-rounded meal, a nice balance, and also help manage our weight too and our appetite. So when we move forward to the nutrition profile here, we see from Target a Good and Gather whole berries frozen strawberry product. And as you can see, it's a cup serving. So if everybody's holds a fist, makes a fist, that's approximately a cup. Of course, everybody's hand and fist is a little bit different. So for about a fistful of frozen berries, maybe we talk that could be 5 or 6 strawberries, whole berries, you're talking about 50 calories. So very much a low number. It's not a protein product, so we don't expect much protein. It is going to provide us healthy carbohydrates, about 13 grams. So just about a snack portion. It's not extraordinarily high. And if you look down below, there's 3 grams of dietary fiber. So it's a good source of fiber. And it does provide us natural sugars. There's no added sugars in a frozen whole berry, at least in this one product. So everything you're consuming is fresh. There's fiber and it's a minimal amount of carbohydrates. Of course, we're eating berries. There will be carbohydrates. Compared to our fresh berries on the next slide, the same cup portion. So it could be 5 or 6 whole berries, 50 calories, 10 grams of carbohydrates. So very similar to our frozen. 2 grams of dietary fiber, very, very similar. 8 grams of sugars, no added sugars. So when you're consuming fresh or frozen in that cup size portion, just expect that every time you put carbohydrates in your body, your blood sugars do want to rise, but understand that because part of that is fiber and there's no added sugars, that it is a healthy source of energy for our body. And that, again, it can help manage our weight and manage our blood sugars and provide us good nutrients that could help other conditions too. Now, for dried fruit, you're going to want to look at more than likely somewhere between an 1/8 to a 1/4 cup of dried fruit as your portion size, because it is going to be much concentrated. And you want to be sure that product doesn't have any added sugars to it. Although I'm not sure in the drying process if there is added sugars in the drying process. So that's kind of a question maybe for our audience is, you know, do you use added sugars to, you know, in the drying process, and what kind of portions do you use if you use a dried fruit? Because usually it's about an 1/8 to a 1/4 cup is probably about the same as a 1 cup portion to fresh or
Can
frozen.
I interject for 1 second here?
Yeah. Do you have
Okay.
dried fruit?
I do have dried fruit, so I figured
Yeah.
I'd pull out the nutrition facts here. So for some dried cranberries, the original, these are sweetened dried cranberries. So you can see on the package, it does say sweetened. So for a 1/4 cup, it's gonna have 33 grams of carbohydrates, 3 grams of fiber, and then 26 grams of added sugars. Because these ones are sweetened, but I'm sure they have unsweetened ones, but
Mhm.
keep in mind.
So good point there, Isabel. Thank you, because obviously when we look at dried fruit, that we would want to probably compare our dried fruits to see if there has been a sweetened compared to something that is more, I guess, unsweetened or no added sugars, if that's possible, because a lot of 26 grams of added sugars would be considerable for sure. Perfect. All right. I think we are at the point now that we bring cooking into perspective here. Our pork loin with blackberry sauce. We are highlighting blackberries. So take it away, Isabel.
All right. So, as you can see on the screen, we have this lovely pork loin with blackberry sauce. This is going to have really nice flavors for fall. So, the recipe is going to call for some pork loin, and then we're basically going to be making a sauce with the blackberries. So, it's a pretty simple, pretty straightforward recipe, and we are going to go ahead and jump right into it. All right. So I've already cooked and prepared my pork. So I'm putting that set aside. It's kind of just resting right now. It was cooked in the slow cooker, but you could also roast it in the oven or however you like to cook your pork. But I've already cooked my pork, so we're just going to put that aside and then we're going to use that later in our recipe. So we're going to focus strictly on the sauce right now. So like Kim and Tina had shared, blackberries are a really great source of antioxidants, and they're so beautiful and colorful. I mean, they're a purple color, and we all know that we need to eat all the colors of the rainbow, right? If you've been to any of our other classes before, we talk about making sure we're getting red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, all of those colors of the rainbow. So blackberries can help us meet some of those marks when it comes to eating our colors. So we are going to go ahead and start with making a slurry. So the slurry is going to be used to kind of help thicken the sauce, and it's quite easy. We're just going to be mixing together some fresh lemon juice and some cornstarch. So the recipe that you guys are following will call for 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, and about a tablespoon or so of lemon juice. Now this is a pretty big lemon, so we'll see how much lemon juice this lemon squeezes out for us. So I'm gonna add my teaspoon of cornstarch right there. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm going to we're only gonna probably squeeze half of the lemon just to make sure we're not getting too, too sour from the lemon. But I'm gonna squeeze it first, and then I'm gonna use my handy dandy little lemon juice. I can't remember. I think it's called a reamer, and I'm gonna throw that into there as well. Oh, that smells so good. There you go. I did notice that I did have a lemon seed kind of pop into our bowl here. So let's see if I can kind of fish that out. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix these together. So the cornstarch and the lemon juice, it smells so fresh and good. I know, Tina, you're talking all about fall weather and everything right now, but this lemon is bringing some serious summer vibes because I'm not ready to let go of summer yet. So
You'll tone it down with that allspice and cinnamon soon.
you're right. You're right. All right. Perfect. I got my lemon juice slurry situated. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients to my pot. So I have a little saucepan here, and basically this recipe is going to kind of heat up on the stove for a little bit while you guys are finishing kind of or going through your education. And then when we get back, we'll make the salad recipe, and then we'll drizzle on the sauce and the pork so you can see the finished product. So I got my medium saucepan here, and what I'm going to do is I am going to add my already washed blackberries, all nice and washed. Oh no, they're dropping, which means, oh man, I have to eat them if they drop and don't land into the bottom. All right. So I've gotten my blackberries in here. Then I'm going to just add those fall spices. So we're going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of our allspice. If you don't have allspice, you could use a little bit of nutmeg. You could use, some more cinnamon. So totally up to you. So I'm going to throw my allspice into my pan. Then I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. And then I'm going to add 1 cinnamon stick and 1 tablespoon of honey. And that is all that is included in this sauce recipe. Then I'm going to take my whisk and I'm going to kind of mash up the blackberries just a tiny bit, just so I can kind of help get the process started for them to kind of, break down over the heat. And then of course the sauce will thicken a little bit as well. So I'm going to add this honey into my pot as well. And then I got to throw in my cinnamon stick. And then that is all that we're going to do for our blackberry sauce until it starts to thicken up a little bit. So I'm going to throw a cinnamon stick in there, throw it onto my little oven here. Oh yeah, I'm starting to smell the fall. Starting to smell the fall scents there with all these scents. So throw that right on there. Turn it up. Give it a little mash, and then I'm going to add my cornstarch slurry into this as well. All right. Any questions while I'm kind of getting this started?
We just had one question, which was, can you use maple syrup instead of honey as your sweetener? I said absolutely.
Definitely, for sure. That's what, if you've ever been to any of our classes before, we are super encouraging to use whatever you have at home. So if you don't have honey at home, but you have maple syrup, that's totally fine. And then also playing around with your own tastes and preferences to make this your own, basically, because we always like to encourage creativity in the kitchen as well. All right. So now I'm going to add my cornstarch slurry. I'm going to break it down a little bit more, give it another little mix, put a top on so it can start kind of heating up and breaking down. And then I'll get cleaned up here to start my other recipe while you go through the rest of the education.
Sounds good. Thank you, Isabel. All right, so we're going to go back to our education, and now Kim is going to talk to us about how to choose the best berries possible.
Yeah,
Mm.
so choosing the berries is a step that we want to take and do it right to ensure peak freshness. So when we choose berries, wherever we're at the farmer's market, at the store, we want to be sure they're, when we're looking at them, maybe we're able to hold, a berry, touch or look or smell. We want to be sure that they're plump, that there's no mold, and that they are firm. We do want to avoid those that have any molding, any soft spots, the dark spots, discoloration to them. There's some mushiness, for lack of a better word, or they lack firmness, just looking like they're already breaking down. So that is kind of the key, is to having something that is firm, that looks healthy, good color, and that has a good shape to it. Now, when we wash our berries, there's a few different steps here that we can take. And, we all do a little bit different, maybe we might do a little something different. But what we can do is we can fill a large bowl with cold water and gently place the berries in a colander and kind of dip this in a cold bath. Many of us might be running them under tap water, but what we know is that running water might actually like squish the berries, like that pressure of the running water. So if you are going to do and rinse them under running water, almost do a very very light drizzle, or like a fine mist of your sprayer. And when they're in the colander, just, gently place them in the colander. But really the idea is gently place them in the colander, dip them in like a deep dish of cold water, and just kind of rinse them that way. When they are rinsed, what we're going to do is we're going to put them in a paper towel lined airtight container. The paper towel will help to whisk that moisture away, and we're going to place them in the container and put them in the fridge. What we want to do is not stack them deep in a dish, because that pressure of the berries can actually squish them, causing them to burst or, break down easy. So really making sure that they're in the fridge in a container that's not holding the moisture. We don't want there to be like standing water in there. We want to be sure that they're dried. And if you're not ready to use them that day, we probably want to not wash them right away. So washing them really when we're ready to consume them. So let's move on to storing, which I kind of gleaned into, is that when we're storing our berries,
Kim, before you move on real quick, before you go on to storing, we had a good suggestion in
oh,
the chat that I want us to talk about
okay.
when it comes to washing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Larissa's here says use your salad spinner to dry your berries, and that'll whisk the water away too. I hadn't thought about it. And so I think that probably could work maybe for your like blueberries and your strawberries, the hardier, more
Yeah,
firm berries. Maybe not so much maybe for the raspberries like we were talking about with like a lower stream of water and it could squish
right,
a little bit more, but just
right,
wanted to throw that out there.
right. That sounds like that could work for something like you say that's a little more sturdier with a little bit thicker skin than something that might be more delicate. Um, and I haven't come across that, and I haven't tried it. So thanks, Larissa. All right, for storing, really we can keep them on the countertop. Don't have to put them in the fridge. If we're going to eat them the same day, wash them up, put them in a cold bath, consume them, and we're good to go. If we don't expect to consume them that day, you might just want to place them, like I said, in a container. Avoid washing them that day, and only wash them in when you're ready to use. So put them in a container, don't stack them too deep, so they're not going to squish, but really avoid washing them until they're ready to use. They can stay on the counter really that day. But otherwise, if it's going to be a couple days, throw them in a container until you're ready to consume them, wash them that day. To freeze them, wash them up, pat them dry, put them on a parchment lined paper. I'm sorry, parchment lined like baking sheet. Put them in the freezer, and really, once they're all frozen in a single layer, then you can put them in a freezer bag up to, but no longer than 6 months. So instead of freezing them in a clump in a bag after you just washed them, because what will happen is they will be in a clump. I've done that before. I've chopped bananas and I threw the fresh banana slices into a freezer bag and I pulled them out for my smoothie and they were just in one large chunk. But if I would have lined a parchment baking sheet, put the slices single layer, put them in the freezer, let them freeze, and then put them in the bag, they wouldn't be in a large clump. So it's such a good idea because it might not be ideal in other recipes and that to have that frozen chunk of berries. So you're not losing any nutrients by freezing or washing these berries and storing them. But the key here is to avoid, really stacking berries, just kind of laying them flat in a container, making sure they get a little TLC, washing them gently, laying them flat, single layer, keeping their nutrients, right? So yeah, so that's storing. How do you pick your berries? When we all go around the grocery store and we're in the produce, I see hands in different fruits and noses up to fruits and everybody doing their thing. How do you pick berries though when it comes to berries? How do you pick those? And so yeah, you can put that in the chat. Let us know. We learn from our participants.
And while people are answering this question, how do
Yep.
you pick the best berries for you in your home? We've
Yep.
got somebody in the chat talking about how they wash their berries, stating that they put their berries in 10 cups of cool water with a 1/4 cup of white vinegar, let those soak for 2 minutes, and then put them in a colander, gently rinse them off with some water, spread them thin on a towel, rotating them, turning them until they're absolutely bone dry. Then she does the paper towel trick where she puts the paper towel in the bottom of a mason jar and then gently puts the berries in, covers the jar with plastic or metal lid, and then puts that into the fridge. And she thinks that helps them keep longer in the refrigerator. So I'm just throwing that out there too.
Using a little vinegar and a little bit different container, still the paper towel. Okay, great.
Yep. All right, let's see. Who were they doing? Not unburied, but how do you freeze? Okay. As just a random question related to the chat here. How do you freeze bananas for smoothies, Kim?
Oh, so I slice them up into, thin slices and my bananas, especially if they're if I've got a few that I might not be able to get to before they turn real brown, is I'll slice them up. I used to just throw them into a freezer bag and then they would be a clump, but now I put parchment paper on a baking sheet and I'll put those slices on that. I'll throw that in the freezer for, I don't know, probably till I forget for a couple hours. And once they're frozen, then I'll take a spatula and kind of knock them off the sheet, throw them into a freezer bag and throw them into the freezer. So then I get them out and it makes my smoothie so much more cold. Yeah, that's how I go about it.
Very
That's a
good.
question.
Yes, and then to answer the chat, let's see. Nikki checks to see what's on sale first.
Okay.
So that was a really valid point, right?
Yeah.
What's on sale, and then from there, picking out the best berries. Penny gets blueberries at the berry farm already frozen, so now they're picked ripe and in good shape.
Very good.
And then Kim, I don't know if you want to answer this question, but David asks, how do you pick a good watermelon? Any tips on that?
My husband does. He knocks on it.
Ask Kim's husband.
He
And
does.
I actually think we have some information on that. If you guys
Yeah.
are interested in how to pick a good melon, one of our other health educators just put together a handout on that, and I'll send that in the reminder email so you guys have that good resource because it is about to be and is melon season. So good thoughts, good questions, good conversations. We are going to pass it back over to Isabel. She is looking ready to do the blueberry sun salad.
All right. So, firstly, I want to say the sauce is smelling divine. It smells so good. So, I'll take it. I'll take the fall spices. I'm not ready to give up summer, but also there's some things to look forward to, like this lovely pork loin with blackberry sauce. So, we're going to move on to our salad while that continues to kind of meld flavors together and just kind of let it simmer for a little tiny bit longer. So now we're going to go on to our salad. So this salad is really wonderful. It's super easy. We actually did this at the farm market a couple of weeks ago, and it was so loved. I mean, Kim, I don't know if you want to touch on that at all, but everybody that came and tried it, they were like, this is so good. So that's what we're going to be making today. We wanted to share that deliciousness with you guys. So this blueberry sun salad is pretty easy. You get mixed greens and blueberries, which I know we're kind of ending blueberry season here, but you could also use other berries in this recipe as well, or save it for next year, or use frozen berries on it. I mean, it's great living in Michigan when you can pick the berries during the seasonal times, you know, in the summertime, freeze them like I heard you guys talking about, and then you can pull out fresh blueberries anytime through the year. So we are going to do that, and then we're going to also be making a homemade dressing to top our salad. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to add some greens to our salad bowl. I have a spring mix. You can use whatever you have at home. You can use whatever lettuce mix you have at home. I just have spring mix, so that's what we're going to be using today. So I've got the spring mix nice in our salad bowl. And then I'm going to throw on my blueberries. All right. So that's the base. That's the base of the salad. Now, what really shines through here is this lovely dressing that we're about to make. So the dressing is very easy. If you don't like making homemade dressing, this recipe also tastes really good with a poppy seed dressing. That's also really a delicious addition to this salad. If you don't want to make your own homemade dressing, or if it's not your favorite, other choices out there exist. So I'm gonna use a mason jar because I feel like adding the dressing ingredients into a mason jar and then just kind of shaking it up combines the ingredients really well. So that's what we're gonna do today. You don't have to do this. You can put it in a bowl. You can use a whisk. You can use a fork. You can use a spoon, whatever you want to mix it. But today I'm gonna use a mason jar and shake it up. So this recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of oil. And so I have olive oil, but you can use vegetable oil. That's totally fine. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of our olive oil into our jar. Then we are going to add 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard. So nice little fancy mustard here. A teaspoon of that into our mason jar. Teaspoon. All right. Teaspoon of that. Throw that all in there. Then we're going to add a tablespoon of vinegar. I have apple cider vinegar here, but you could use balsamic vinegar. You could use the white distilled vinegar. So whatever type of vinegar you have at home, that's good for cooking. So I'm going to use apple cider vinegar. I just kind of like the taste that the apple cider vinegar adds to this recipe. And it calls for a tablespoon of that. So I dump that right into my jar as well. Then we're going to add just a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. You can omit the salt if you are watching your sodium, or you can leave it in. It's totally up to you. It calls for a 1/4 teaspoon, but I kind of just like throwing in the pepper. So I'm going to throw in the pepper, and then I'm going to measure out my salt to make sure that I'm getting, the correct amount of sodium. So Gonna measure it out. We got a 1/4 teaspoon of salt that I'm gonna put into our mason jar as well. Or you could do less, totally up to you. Throw that in there as well. So in our jar, we have oil, we have vinegar, we have Dijon mustard, we have salt, and we have pepper. So a very, very, very simple dressing. I'm gonna shake it up, make sure it's all nice and combined. Give it a good shake here. You see how easy and quickly that comes together? All right, lovely. So now you have this in the jar. You can also double this recipe if this does not seem like enough dressing to you. You can easily double the recipe. So I got that. I'm going to set that aside for just one more moment. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some drained mandarin oranges. And I do want to mention that when you are choosing fruit, so like Kim and Tina have said before, that when it comes to nutrition, choosing fresh, frozen, and canned fruits and vegetables still give us the same vitamins and minerals. So if we're going to be eating a frozen fruit, a frozen strawberry, like Kim had mentioned, as long as it's unsweetened, versus a fresh strawberry, you're getting a very, very similar nutrient profile, almost exactly the exact same as Kim had shown you on the screen. So that's the same thing for these oranges. So when I chose these mandarin oranges, since they're canned, I wanted to make sure that we were looking for 100 canned and 100% fruit juice. So when you're choosing canned fruit, looking for that 100% fruit juice to make sure that there is no added sugar in your canned fruit. Because if the fruit is canned in heavy syrup or light syrup, then of course it's going to add some more added sugar. Whereas if we're just doing the 100% juice, then we're golden. So I'm going to add that in there. My mandarin oranges and 100% fruit juice, even though the juice has been drained out. That's in our bowl. And then for extra spice, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but it tastes really good with some onions. So I'm going to throw some onions on here as well. It kind of adds a little extra color. It adds a couple of more antioxidants. So we got that. And then we're going to add a little bit of feta cheese. So the recipe calls for about a 1/2 cup of feta cheese. So I'm going to measure that. And then we're going to dump that. I'm going to toss this first, and then I'm going to dump the cheese on top of it so it kind of doesn't all sink to the bottom. So I toss this all up, and then I'm going to wait to pour the dressing on until the very end, just because I'm not going to be eating this entire bowl of salad right away.
It's gorgeous.
But it is gorgeous, right? And take note that if you are going to be saving this for later, I would wait to add the oranges until you're ready to eat, because that's going to kind of, the liquid is kind of going to add liquid to your greens here. Same with the dressing. But if you're going to eat it immediately, just mixing everything all together is perfect. All right. So I'm going to add my feta cheese on top of that to top it off. And I'll dress this with the dressing, and I'll get everything situated on a plate so you guys can see the final presentation of everything.
Perfect. Thank you, Isabel. And that's just such a good base recipe that you can swap out with whatever berry happens to be in season or that you have in your refrigerator, and you can swap it out with whatever crunch, right? Maybe it's not sunflower seeds, but you've got slivered almonds in the pantry instead. So such a great recipe, a base recipe that you can, swap out and change to whatever you have available in your own home kitchen. So great. Thank you, Isabel. We will come back to you in just a few minutes.
Yeah, and I was going to say one more thing. Sorry, thank you for mentioning that, because I forgot to add my my sunflower seeds. I have a sunflower pumpkin seed mixture here, and then that's going to add a little bit of protein, a little bit of healthy fats. So a good meal here. All right, that's it. Thank you for that reminder.
All right, we'll be back with you in just a little bit.
Sound great.
All right, well, then we will open up to Q&A. So we'll open it up to Q&A then. And so while Isabel is just finalizing, putting together her dishes for us to take a look at, let's just open it up for Q&A. I know we've been answering a lot of questions throughout today's conversation. But what else do you guys have questions about? And so we've got one coming in. And so just reiterate this. This is just a few minutes for us to take some questions around berries or any of the recipes or any of the ingredients that we used in the recipes today. Again, our focus was berries. And so we've got one question here, and that is, can you substitute nuts instead of sunflower seeds? Kim, I'll let you take that.
Yeah, absolutely. We are looking at, heart-healthy proteins, plant-based proteins. You've got heart-healthy fats, some of your, unsaturated. So yes, and really you could find some of those slivered almonds instead of those sunflower seeds or whatever maybe you have, on hand. Absolutely, whatever crunch, like Tina said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the idea of having the sunflower seed and pumpkin seed combination.
I love that.
That sounds delicious. All right, what other questions do you guys have? And one thing that Isabel was talking about, we used some canned fruit on this salad, right? We used a combination of fresh produce, fresh berries, also with some canned. And so Isabel talked to us today about canned mandarin oranges, canned in 100% fruit juice. And I was just going to type it in the chat, but then thought I would say this out loud, that even if you wanted to take that a step further, and even though it is canned in 100% fruit juice, you're more than welcome to rinse off those mandarin oranges with some additional water to try to reduce some of that sugar even further in using canned fruit. So I just wanted to say that also. David here says, I have some grocery purchased frozen fruit in a deep freezer. How long can they keep before I use them?
Well, what was mentioned earlier is, keeping frozen fruit up to 6 months.
Yeah.
It just, probably palatability, flavor, maybe not so much nutrient profile. Sometimes we get freezer burn, so maybe up to 6 months. Not sure how long it's been, but kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty golden rule for myself too. Once they're in there for too long, I feel like they get a little freezer burnt and not
Yeah.
very good tasting and quality. Yeah. And then Jill asks, one pint of blueberries equals how many cups? And so, generally speaking, I think about 1 pint equals about two cups or so.
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
yeah, very good. All right. Well, seeing no further questions, Isabel is looking good and ready for us. So let's put the show back to Isabel here so we can spotlight that beautiful meal she's made.
So this is your beautiful berry forward meal. So you can see how gorgeous the blackberry sauce looks on top of that pork, how colorful and beautiful the salad is with the oranges and the berries and the onions and the greens. So you can see, let's see how many colors are on my plate. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4 colors on my plate. So that is pretty good, I would say. So this is a quick, easy recipe that you can make with those last little bits of berries that you have in your household, or saving it for later on in this next summer, or using those frozen berries later on in the year, and just knowing that it's a really delicious, balanced meal. Now, I don't know if I missed this or not. But so I apologize if I missed this already. But Kim, could you talk about the balance as it relates to diabetes
Right.
of this meal?
Yeah, I was actually going to highlight that once you played it to show that actually both of our recipes today make that complete balanced meal. So when you look at this plate, you see this pork loin that is our protein that balances out with those carbohydrate fresh and canned, those blueberries and that blackberries. And then you have your non-starchy vegetables that is, over half the plate. So it gives you really a complete meal between both of those recipes, and lots of antioxidants, lots of colors, vitamins, healthy fats from that feta cheese. Yeah, you go ahead and that smell-o-vision, I'm telling you. So it is a definite complete meal. And when we look at, calories, and when we look at carbohydrates, it's so right where we need to be. And everyone, you can modify this to your liking, whether it's fresh, frozen fruit, your berries, sodium, cheese choices, the crunch, as we've all said.
And in this recipe and these recipes, right, there's that big focus on quality carbohydrates, right? We're using carbohydrates in a quality way that Kim has emphasized the importance of using carbohydrates that are full of antioxidants, with all of the different colors, and that are just really rich sources of fiber. And that is what you're really looking for when choosing carbohydrates and balancing out, as she mentioned, with those non-starchy vegetables and that protein for good, stable blood sugar. And then Isabel, Penny would like you to take an additional bite for her as well.
I definitely can. This is really good.
And so, very good. Yes, that is great and beautiful. And we wish we were having breakfast with you. And so I'm just going to pop this back up on the screen, our presentation here, just to highlight a few additional things that we want to talk about before the end of today's session. Kim, would you like to talk a little bit about diabetes education and medical nutrition therapy?
Sure. So if you're interested in learning furthermore about your diabetes, go ahead and reach out to your primary care provider or your endocrinologist and request a referral to Bronson Diabetes Education, whether you're closer to South Haven, Battle Creek, or Portage. We can do telemedicine, so video visits, or in person. I happen to be over here in South Haven, but there's educators in all 3 locations. If you're looking at nutrition, that's your medical nutrition therapy. That is specific nutrition referral for just diabetes. And then diabetes self-management education would be comprehensive classes over medications, blood sugars, nutrition. And so there's 2 different referrals. You can reach out to your provider for or endocrinologist to become furthermore educated on your diabetes. And so we have both services at all 3 locations.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kim, for kind of going over those services. And then, just in general, not specific to medical nutrition therapy or diabetes services, but generally speaking, I'm just leaving this up on the screen for you all to take a look. If you are looking for a new primary care or looking to get established with a primary care or a specialist, we have assistance through our care advisors and our bronsonhealth.com website that can help you find somebody that is accepting new patients and looking for the specialty or working in the specialty that you might be looking for. We also have assistance with MyChart if you're ever unsure on how to use the MyChart system. We've got the Bronson patient accounting services available for any billing or payment plan. And then if you're ever referred for any form of service, even if it's medical nutrition therapy or diabetes education, and you're just not sure how much it's going to cost you out of pocket, contact our price estimator team. Phone number is listed there at that bottom bullet, or you can request an estimate through MyChart, whether you have an active Bronson MyChart or not. You can get an estimate of how much that is expected to cost you out of pocket. So thank you all. And there's a couple of their comments. So before we all kind of end here and leave, Kim, Isabel, anybody in the room, anybody worked with banana peel flour before?
No, I've
Not
never
at
even heard of
all.
that.
Me either, Larissa. So thank you for opening our eyes
Yeah.
today to banana peel flour. I've got a couple of different berries and a flour now to look into. So
Mhm.
thank you for that. she says it's very high in fiber and she plans to add it to her next chili slow cooker meal. So that makes sense. Maybe a bit of a thickening agent, right? Like other flours. So very good, very good. All right. Well, I just wanted to, where do you get it? Larissa, if you want to answer that, I'm assuming any of those natural, healthy grocery stores like an Apple Valley or a Whole Foods. So very good. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Isabel, for featuring those delicious berry recipes, and Kim for providing us some berry education and how that relates to using berries while managing diabetes and stable blood sugars. Our September schedule is out there, and our October schedule. September and October are our last two diabetes cooking clubs for 2025. So we are going to be focusing on, I believe, nourishing bowls, right? Making those warm, comforting bowls. How do we make that to be diabetes friendly? And then Kim, do you remind me, is it sheet pans? Sheet pan meals?
Yes, October sheet pan.
Sheet pan meals. So nourishing bowls and sheet pan meals. So please come and register. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you guys in September. Appreciate you all and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.